So, you know what? I did bring along something for us to look at. My aim today is to open the book that we will be studying out of in our small group, and to look at it a little bit. In preparation, I struggle with this. And I had to keep telling myself, how does one eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I kept saying that over and over again because, you know what? I want to bring to you how Daniel 2 and Daniel 7, Revelation 12 and Revelation 13, how that they kind of come together and give you the picture of between Babylon the Great and end of the world, and how it's so beautiful it is. And that's a big project, and how to summarize it, I don't know, but God's going to work it out. So, let me get to the right page here. I believe that these 4 chapters, the main chapters, are definitely talking about the same time period. And I would like to get myself my marker. Daniel chapter 2. Here we go. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. He was wondering what would happen to his kingdom and what would happen in the world. God was able to read his mind and his thoughts in his bed, sent him a dream, and he showed him an image. But then God gave him amnesia. And he had Daniel come and interpret the dream. Now, Daniel explained that he had seen a dream with an image that had a head of gold, silver, bronze, and iron, with a little bit of clay mixed in on the feet and toes. And as he was admiring that image, a stone came and hit the image at his feet, right where that clay was mixed in with the iron, and it just broke the whole thing. And that stone became a great mountain and filled the whole world. The king didn't know what it all meant. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but what was the interpretation? What was the head? Babylon. And the chest? Medo-Persia. And the belly? And the legs? Rome. What about the feet? What was it? The feet with clay was the divided Rome, right? And we didn't know what that really meant yet. We have to have more information. So what Daniel 2 actually provides us very few details. It just gives us an outline, which all of the rest of prophecy doesn't go against. For example, it really doesn't tell us much about the first three kingdoms. Daniel 2 does not mention the fourth kingdom at all. Does not mention that the fourth kingdom, which is the legs of iron, I should say, would have three successive stages. So all we see is that it's two legs with feet. Daniel 2 does not mention that the period of the feet would have two stages with a time interval in between. Daniel 2 does not mention how long the first stage of the feet and toes would last. Daniel 2 does not mention that there will be an investigative judgment before Christ sets up his everlasting kingdom, before that stone comes down. Of course, I guess that stone does kind of give you a hint that there's going to be some kind of a judgment there. We need to go to Daniel chapter 7 for more information. What do we find in Daniel chapter 7? What is Daniel chapter 7 presenting? Now, this was a dream given to whom? To Daniel, right? What did he see? He saw four beasts. Which is the first one? The lion. And what do we learn about the lion? It had eagles. What is the lion? What does it represent? It represents Babylon. And it had two wings, right? So we're getting more information now. Two wings. And then what did it do? It stood up on its two legs and had the heart of a man. And had heart of man. Okay. Do you see what just happened here? This is the principle I'm trying to teach today. How one prophecy gives more information and the other one gives more. And so what about Medo-Persia? What do we learn here? Okay, it's the bear, right? And who does that represent? Medo-Persia, right? Okay. And what did we learn about the bear? One side was taller than the other, right? It raised up on one side. What else do we find out? 3 ribs in his mouth. Okay. What about the third beast? What was that? A leopard. And what does that represent? Greece, right? What else does it tell us? It had 4 wings. And 4 heads. Anything else? And dominion was given unto it. Okay. All right. Now, we would assume that Greece was a divided Greece from the very beginning by this, would we not? But we'd have to go to Daniel chapter 8 to find out otherwise. So what we're finding here is that these animals, they come fully developed and as in the picture, but they don't necessarily, like the lion, when it was ferocious, it was devouring, and it was they're conquering. That was when they had the wings, but then the wings were taken off, and then it had stood on legs of a man and had a man's heart. A man's heart is not a very courageous heart, and so we can see that by the time of Belshazzar, Babylon, Belshazzar's knees were smiting together. He wasn't. So it goes. I'm just showing you how that works. We find that that Greece in chapter 8, it has a prominent horn, and so when that broke off, when Alexander the Great died, then the kingdom was divided. So we're not going to get into that anymore today. What about the fourth beast? What is that? So it doesn't have a name. It's the 10-horned beast. Okay. But it's also, yes. We'll get to that one in Revelation chapter 13. This one here, it is described, he didn't have a name for it, so he describes it. And it's a terrible beast. Strong beast. Strong. Iron teeth. And he devours. And he stomps, right, with his feet. So we know it has feet. With feet. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. It's not until we get to Revelation that we can identify this as more of a dragon type of beast. Okay? But now we just don't know what it is. All right. Oh, yes, it ends up with 10 horns. And then what? A little horn. What was different about this little horn? It had eyes and a mouth, huh? Okay. Oh, yeah, it spoke great things and blasphemies, right? Okay. Yeah, I did uproot 3 horns. That's right. All right, so what do horns stand for? Kingdoms, correct. So we're seeing a progression in the beast here, and this fourth beast, he transforms over time. Okay, do you see that with me? Okay. What else? For sake of time, we're going to keep going. Now, what is key to understanding the link between Daniel and Revelation, Daniel 7, 2 and 7, and Revelation 12, is reading Genesis 3:15. This is key. So if you go ahead and turn there, of course you may have this memorized, and I have it printed somewhere. Oh, here we go. It says, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. The setting is when Adam and Eve had sinned, and God goes and talks with them. And actually, this is kind of a little judgment here, right? They had to leave the garden after this. But he did leave this as a promise. But it does spell out what's going to happen. The gift was enmity. He's going to put enmity instead to break this love of sin that comes. However, it mentions the serpent. If we can turn to Revelation chapter 12, we're going to see how this fits in. Who's the serpent? Satan. He's also known as the dragon. Who's the serpent's seed? His followers, that's right. Who's the woman? The church. What about the woman's seed? That's Jesus Christ. Now, in Revelation chapter 12, you can turn there in your Bibles, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having what? 7 heads, and how many horns? 10 horns. There's a link there, isn't there? There's the 10 horns there too. And 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and it cast him to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Well, who's this talking of? Jesus. What happened at Jesus' birth? Herod trying to kill him, and he ended up killing all the babies of Bethlehem. Right? Yeah. But he escaped. Now, Genesis 3:15 says what? Who was the serpent going to be angry with? The woman? Or the woman's seed? The main enmity is between Satan and Jesus. But when Jesus was taken up to the throne, God's throne, guess who was out of the picture? Yeah, he was out of reach now. So in his rage, who did Satan turn to persecute? The what? The church, right? Yeah. So, no, I'm not writing all this down. The woman needed help because the dragon was going to try to kill her. Who helped the woman? The earth did. How did the earth help the woman? Okay, yes. The dragon, he spewed water out of his mouth to try to drown her. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the water. Now that's all symbolic language for what? We know what it is because it tells us. The water is people, multitudes, nations, right? Okay. In Europe, that's where all the people were, and the people who came to America were fleeing Europe. The pilgrims, right? That's the word I was thinking of. The pilgrims wanted to be able to worship as they wanted. They came to the land that is now called America, and that's where God's people were able to escape. And look at the country that eventually was grown from this place, right? Look, we have, at least up until now, we have freedom of what? What's that? We have freedom of religion, right? Do you think that the devil is very happy about that? So who do you think the devil is going to try to overcome? Yeah, but he's also going to have a controversy with the earth, right? With this territory over here that opened its mouth and swallowed the water. He's going to try to do something about that. That's going to come in the next chapter. I want to point out we forgot something here. I think in chapter 7. Yes. Let me go back to Daniel chapter 7. I want to add something that's very key here. And it says, talking about the little horn, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change time and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, times, and the dividing of time. So saints delivered for into his hand for time, times, dividing of time. What length of time is that? That's the 1260 days and years, right? Okay. I went back to that because we're going to see that again here in chapter 12. The woman is nourished by the earth for how long? For the same amount of time. For time, times, and dividing of time. Is this talking about the same time period here? Yes, it certainly is. So, well, through this battle of the earth helping the woman and the woman escaping and all, the dragon gets really mad. Go ahead. Yes, he does. Persecution. Okay, thank you. There are definitely a lot of details here. Verse 17 of Revelation 12 says what? The dragon was wroth with who? With the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Who is the remnant of the woman's seed? We are. We are. And I can say that because we keep God's law. We have the testimony of Jesus, right? And that would include everybody who is a true follower of Jesus, right? So, that's how chapter 12 ends. And let me see here. Several questions remain unanswered after the study of Revelation 12. Why will the dragon be furious with the woman for a second time? Maybe I skipped something here. Okay. I want to line this up here real quick. This is important. Woman is the first, was be the Old Testament church, which would be the first three kingdoms, right? Because what kingdom was ruling when Jesus came? The fourth kingdom, right? Okay. The dragon, which is pointing to this terrible beast, the dragon beast is the first stage of Rome. That would be the Roman Empire. Pagan Rome. Yeah, pagan Rome. Okay. Let me just write that down. Okay, so the 10 horns, because this beast has 10 horns, right? Is the second stage of Rome. What is that? Not yet. Is Europe divided? Or divided Rome? Okay. Now, the next one is the 1260 years. Is the third stage of Rome. That's the persecuting part of Rome, right? That's when there's the religion mixed in with the government, right? Religion and government combined. Then there's a period of respite, which is when there's no more persecution. When would that when did that happen? After the deadly wound, correct. That's when the earth helps the woman. No persecution. And then there's the rage of the dragon. When is that? That's the fourth stage, right? Did you know Rome had a fourth stage? That's when the wound is healed. And so that's deadly wound. Okay, so when the earth helps the woman, there's no persecution, and then there's a deadly wound. That would be 1798, right? Deadly wound. And so then healing of the wound. And then there's going to persecution going to come again. Returns. All right. So that it would be Revelation 12. Okay, so now I'm reading out the book now. Why will the dragon be furious with the woman for a second time? That's right, because the obedience, right? With the commandments of God, not going along with the Sunday laws, right? Where in the book of Revelation do we find a further description of the dragon's wrath in Revelation 12:17? Where do we find a bigger description? 13. Revelation 13 will tell us more. In what manner will the dragon manifest his wrath against the woman in verse 17? Will he do so in person or by employing another beast, which would be his seed, as his deputy? We don't know this yet in Revelation 12. That's why we need Revelation 13. Which of the 10 commandments does the dragon particularly despise? We don't know that yet. What is the testimony of Jesus, and why will the dragon hate those who possess it? We don't know yet. What methods will the dragon employ to attack the testimony of Jesus? It doesn't say yet. So why we need Revelation 13. Who is the remnant of the woman's seed? Whoops, we got ahead of ourselves, didn't we? It's not until Revelation 13 do we know these things. So let's go to Revelation 13 quickly here. See if I can find. Okay. All right. Chapter 13. What is the first beast of Revelation 13? Someone said earlier that it was an amalgamation beast. That's true. What does it look like? Okay, so this beast, and I'll just read it to you, okay? Revelation 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, descending from the earth, having 7 heads, and how many horns? 10 horns. There we got the 10 horns again. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. We've seen a leopard before, haven't we? And he had the feet of a bear, and his mouth was the mouth of a lion. What? That's reverse order, isn't it? When was John when he saw this? What time period was he? He was in the fourth beast. Yeah? So he was looking back in time, in history. Interesting details. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And it was given, it was going to have authority for 42 months, which would be the same as this time, and dividing of time. Okay? We're not going to go into all this detail today. Then there is a second beast. Tell me about this second beast. Where did it come up from? The earth. So, have we heard of the earth somewhere? Yes, we have. This is the area of the world that helped the woman. Right? Okay. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him. Who was the first beast? The papacy, right? Papal Rome. So, this religious nation is going to have exercised the authority of who? Papal Rome. I'm not talking about the Catholic Church here. I'm talking about this where it was talked about in the image, where there was feet that were iron and clay, a mixture of religion with the government. Okay? Catholic people are wonderful people. Now, so this beast would cause the earth and all the people in the earth to worship God? No, the beast, the first beast, right? Whose deadly wound was healed. All right? So if I had room, I could write all this out. But I think you're getting the picture here, right? So this beast had the power to give life unto the image of the beast. And the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. What does that mean? Persecution again, correct. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man should buy or sell, save he that hath the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Who is this beast? The United States. The United States was coming into power when the deadly wound happened. And the United States happens to be right exactly located where the earth helped the woman. So yes. But as we have looked in Genesis 3:15, the devil is angry, and he's going to use that beast that initially helped the woman. He's going to turn on her, especially on the remnant of the woman's seed. Where are we in time now? Where are we? We're in the toes. Yes, we are. What about in Daniel 7? Do we know? We're in the little horn period, aren't we? When he's thinking to change God's law? Isn't that where we are? Yes. Okay. What about Revelation 12? Where are we? We're still remain in the peaceful period between the two persecutions. Between the third stage of Rome and the fourth stage of Rome. What's the only thing that is holding or that's preventing the fourth stage? The separation of church and state. Correct. You see, we're living at that very time when in Revelation 13, America, that second beast, is now transitioning. It may be even today transitioning. We don't know when for sure, but we know it's very soon. And never have we had, at least in my lifetime, a situation where there's been such a crackdown on people, rounding them up, shipping them off, harassing. You know what I'm saying? Show of military force has the ability to make it to where you can buy or sell. Just hasn't been rolled out yet. We don't have long. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Now is the time for prayer. Because those around us, to a large degree, don't know about this. They don't know what's coming. What a big surprise it's going to be. We need to pray for our neighbors, our colleagues, those we know. We need to pray for our country. Because our leaders probably don't realize that they have become a puppet. Think of it. Do you think President Trump would be happy if he realized he was a puppet? Whoo! Just think of it. Man, he has no idea. That's my point. I don't think they realize what they're doing. What is the next thing that's going to happen in the flow of time? The last thing is going to be this stone. And it's going to hit right on that clay. You understand why it's hitting there on the clay instead of on the head? Because that's the only power that is usurped his power. You understand? And it's actually the day in which we live now. And if we go back I just want to close with this. Daniel 7. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Think on that. We know how it ends. Does that encourage you? I'm finished.
Psalm 2:14.